when Karen said, okay, Stu, how do we do this, right? How do we bring this business piece, the folks that are coming for strategic planning and your expertise there, and then there's some things on the personal side or professional development side. So kind of personal life a little bit, and Karen shared with you that a lot of that stuff's going to be doing, outside of this, but kind of the personal or professional development, and then the organizational stuff. And I said, you know what? Let's frame that under this concept of you, Inc. Right? Think of yourself as a business entity. And for those of you who are here for the business stuff, think about your business and you within that business. And so what I'd like to talk just a little bit about, and like I said, I have a timekeeper. Unlike Karen, I have a timekeeper back there. So we are going to spend about the next 25 minutes or so in a conversation with you, asking questions about you, Inc. And it's really not about strategic plans, it's more about strategic thinking. One of the things that you'll learn about me also, and Karen alluded to, is I eat my own cooking. You know what that phrase means? I eat my own cooking? I take my own advice. So I have a date, 3/24/2020. And I have visualized that date from the moment I get up to the moment I go to bed in detail about what that date is all about. Because that date is my vision for me strategically to get from where I am today to where I want to be in the future. And I know what motivates me. I have a high degree of need for freedom. What freedom means for me is that I get to choose what it is that I want to do. And I need a lot of variety. Not everyone's like that, right? So knowing yourself is a key part of strategic thinking, and then having a vision about what that day looks like, what that event looks like, whether it's personally or professionally. What does the year look like, right? If I could envision 12/31/2016 for the visitor center, right? What's that day look like? You know, are people rushing through the door, or do we have a big event? What happened on that day? It's so powerful. How many of you have heard the phrase, I will believe it when I see it? How many, right? That phrase is absolutely 100% incorrect. It's actually inverted. Because how should it sound? I'll see it when I believe it. And so it applies to business. I work with many business organizations, and they'll go, so what are you talking about, what we should envision in the future? I said, what should your organization look like? Well, we'd love to do that, but we're struggling with employee relations. Great. So what should employee relations look like? Right? Think about an interaction between a staff member and a manager. What should that be all about? It's only then when you can envision that can you design something to get there. Otherwise, you're just swagging it, right? And here's the worst thing you can do. The blind adaptation of best practices. Reading some magazine or newspaper and saying, oh, look, we need to empower folks because this company's empowering people. And they do it through self-directed work teams, or they do it through blah, 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 blah. Great, let's go do that. And then you go and you do it and you go, gosh, these people will never change, right? Because it doesn't work for your organization the way they did it. Now, is it the fact that empowerment's wrong? Heck no. But we got to consider what empowerment sounds like for people. What did they envision? Right? Did you go ask them about that? Only then can we see what that looks like, and we can start planning for it. All right, fair enough. So here we're going to go. So this model that I'm going to show you is pretty common knowledge. It's a kind of a hybrid of some of the work out of Harvard Business School. Two guys named Kaplan and Norton wrote a book that was a big divider for strategic planners that said you need to take a balanced approach to strategic planning. And they called it the balanced scorecard. And basically what they said, up until then, most people who did strategic planning took very much an internal look. What's going on inside the organization? And what they failed to do is take an external look. What's going on in the environment? Well, since they wrote that book, what they propose is even more applicable because things change so quickly. I see so many organizations trying to react, right, to the environmental, right, changes that are going on without understanding what it really means to their business. So Kaplan and Norton said, let's take an internal and external point of view. Let's make sure that we understand our financials. And when we say on the personal side, financials are the same thing, they're just targets. So you can change a financial objective to a personal objective. I want to achieve X by Y. Okay? So you can do it in both of your worlds of you, Inc. And Kaplan and Norton also said, listen, so when we get this understanding of what's happening internally, what's happening externally, and kind of what are the financial drivers, what's the cultural part? Many times people will take on the strategic planning work, and I'll ask them, I'll go to the office for the first time, and I'll say, oh, tell me about your strategic planning experience. Oh, we do it all the time. And then I'm always curious, well, why the hell did you call me, right? So we do it all the time. I said, okay, great. Can I see your strategic plan? So you guys can see this picture in your mind, right? So the executive does what to get the strategic plan that I want to see? Yeah, she'll turn her back and she'll reach way, way up on the bookshelf and grab the binder up there that says strategic plan, 2012, 2016. Knock all the dust off of it so it doesn't fall on her and bring it out and lay it out there. So they've done strategic planning from an event perspective, but they haven't incorporated strategic planning in what they do. People, that happens to people too. How many of you have a to-do list for your to-do list? Right? And so it's getting from the planning part to the execution part. So this model is, again, based on classic strategic thinking, and it's very straightforward. One of the things that people tell me all the time about the way that I approach strategic planning is like, Stu, you make it accessible. You make it understandable. It's not overly complex. The execution can get a little muddy and complex, but the planning part is not overly complex. So here are some components in here. And I want to talk to you about the components. I want to give you some examples, and I would love to hear from you about what's going on. I rarely ask a question of folks that I know that they don't have the answer to, but I'm going to go ahead and do this for demonstration purposes. I'm going to say it one more time. I rarely ask people to answer a question that I know that they don't have the answer to, because that's fairly unfair. But how many of you can, with a high degree of confidence and certainty, can tell me that you have an absolutely, positively clear vision that is articulated, written down, and could be shared with anybody at a moment's notice about where you want to be in the future? Yeah, you have some parts, right? That's why Robin asked you about the bucket list. Right? There's my desires in the future to do this and to do that. You have parts of them. But when we do planning, this has to be just an absolutely compelling picture. And again, I know it might sound a little different to you, but I can tell you I've walked that 3/24/2020 date many times in my mind. And when I'm feeling, right, a little depressed and overwhelmed, I go back to that vision. Because it's me leaving my house to go out and do whatever the heck I want to do. Right? So it's got to be this vision. It's got to be compelling, and it's got to have those pieces in it. And it needs to be succinct. Right? It shouldn't start out, where the person listening to you is like, oh my goodness, I think I just opened up the first page of War and Peace. Right? Because they're starting to read the whole book. Very clear, very succinct. You ought to be able to share it in a few minutes with someone. Here's what I want for the future. Here's what I want for the future of our company. Here's what I want for the year. Here's what I want for my HR department. Here's where I think I fit into that. Right? You can adapt your vision to the vision that's outside of you. Right? Here are the skills and talents and abilities that I bring to this organization. Here's my vision within this organization. And so spend some time in here. So there's some key pieces. It needs to be clear. And by clear, I mean drop the Dilbert language in organizations, right? The overarching synergistic approach to this, right? By the time you say that, right, most staff members are like, oh, they're just eyes are rolled back in their head. Here's what's important about customer service. Here's what we expect, right? So it needs to be clear, it needs to be concise, right? And it needs to be vivid, and it needs to be compelling. Some of the best leaders I have ever worked for spent most of their time doing a wonderful job of describing what the future was like, other than telling me what to do. Stu, here's what it should look like, right? And then giving me words that motivated me to take action, right? Have you worked for somebody like that? Somebody who was really inspiring? So the vision helps you with leadership, not only with people, but with yourself. And you need to have a really good picture of you. This is my best version of you, right? Little smiley face. And you, Inc. So where are we today? This is one of the hardest things to do for both organizations and individuals. If you think about it from an organization perspective, lots of tools you can use. A classic one might be a SWOT analysis, strengths, opportunity, weaknesses, and threats. You know, what are our strengths and weaknesses inside the organization? What are our opportunities and threats outside the organization? And that's a very disciplined approach to going about that, right? And there's a bunch of tools you can use in there. You can use a pest analysis. You can use, a competitive comparison analysis, all that kind of stuff. So you can do those things. On a personal level, think about what motivates you. What gets you up in the morning, besides paying the bills and the pressure of that? What's inspiring to you? And get a clear picture of where you're at. Because we need to get from here, where we're at today, excuse me, to here where we want to be. And the only way we can do that is for that to be super, super clear, and for us to understand as an organization, as an individual, what are our strengths and weaknesses that are going to get there? What's going to get in our way? And we'll make it even simpler. Because Robin, I was looking, Robin, I keep looking all the way to that. I know Robin, and Robin, right? It's so much. How many of you say, I am really bad at remembering people's names? Okay? So the reason that you are is the same reason you raise your hand. Okay? So quit raising your hand and tell yourself, I'm very, very good at remembering names, because the brain has this amazing ability to do exactly what you ask it to do. So if you keep telling your brain, I'm really bad at remembering people's names, guess what your brain's going to do? Well, that's what he or she wants me to do, so the next time I hear somebody's name, I'm not going to worry about it too much. Make sense? All right. So Karen, fast our Robin, did a wonderful job of putting together a YouTube video that's worth watching. I think it's about 6.5, 7.5 minutes. And she talked about creating this plan to move forward. And one of the things that was in that YouTube video that's so compelling is a lot of people do this part, they do the what part, but they forget about the why part. Why am I doing it? Where's the motivation come from in there? And when we think about both organizations getting from here to here, a lot of times people will just start writing stuff, write a big list. Well, here are the things that we need to do, right? And here's the priority. This is 1, 2, and 3, and this is what we're going to do. And it gets them somewhere along this path, but not all the way along this path, because what they fail to identify is what has to go right and what's getting in the way. So they'll jump to strategies first. Organizations do it all the time. Let me give you an example. I was working with a church, and you can apply this to any kind of organization. Any of you belong to an organization where membership is your lifeblood? Let's say the PTA or some social organization, right? And so membership's the lifeblood. And so this church was working on membership. And I said, okay, great. So it sounds like membership's really important to you all, and what does that do for you? And they told me their story and so on and so forth. And I asked them, well, what have you done in the past? And so think about it. Any membership organization in the world, what are some things that come to your mind right now that would increase membership? What are some ideas that we might have?
Bring guests.
Bring guests, right? And so bring guests. What else what might we do?
Advertise.
Advertise. All right, what else?
Social media.
Yeah, advertise, social media, what else?
Sign up with a chamber.
I know, Robin, yeah.
Charitable.
So, see where this is going? People go, hey, these are the things that we need to do. And I said, well, what have you done of all those things? And they said, everything. I said, really? You've done all the things that you said you needed to do to drive membership. What happened? And they said, well, let's tell you the story. What happened was that we would do these things, and the service after when we do these things, membership would go up. And it might stay up for a week or 2 after that. How many of you have this in membership organizations, or maybe, right, and the folks that come to you, your clients, and so on and so forth, that come to you? Well, what gets in the way? What do you mean, what gets in the way? I said, well, what's getting in the way of the membership sticking? And I had poked the big elephant in the room. And everybody went, well, it might be a lot of things. You know, guys, right? And I said, come on, guys, I can't help you unless you're honest with me. What's getting in the way? And they're like, you need to go talk to Mary in the music department. And I'm like, really? What's that all about? And so the story was that folks would come, and the music would play, and they could stand it for about 2 services, and they'd leave. So all those things they were doing, inviting people, social media, all that kind of stuff, all that activity, all those resources and effort was getting them what they needed temporarily, but they still haven't solved what was getting in the way. Many times we do that all the time in strategy planning. We're not honest enough with ourselves that say, what's keeping me back? And sometimes a system can't see itself. So we have to go to our friends and say, listen, I'm trying to grow, I'm trying to develop. As an organization, we have to go maybe outside the organization and say, can you come look at us from the outside in? So actually, at the end of the story real quick, I went to see Mary, right? Because I was the Mikey of that church. Like, you know, Mary won't kill the new guy. So I went to Mary and I talked to Mary. Hey, Mary, I'm doing the strategic planning thing, blah, blah, blah. I got about halfway through the conversation, and she went from, like, Mary, like the older lady running the music department, to Mary. And I was watching this physical transformation. Now, Mary, I'm kind of curious. She said, thank God. And I thought, well, that's an appropriate response in the church. I asked, why are you so happy that I'm asking you questions about the music program? She goes, Stuart, I was asked to take this over 2 years ago. I told them I was not good at this. The minister that asked me to do it is already gone. None of those guys you're working with know that I hate this job. I'm running people off. I see them come in. I don't have any talent in this room, right? See where we're going with this? So a lot of times we do all the strategy stuff without getting these 2 things done. So the key is to identify the obstacles that are getting in your way, to be really, really honest with yourself or with your organization, and what has to go right. Let me give you an example for me. My strength is my obstacle. I told you I have a lot of need for freedom, fun, flexibility, that kind of stuff. Well, then I'll put too much on my plate. And then I have to prioritize. So you have to be aware of what is working for you as a strength and what might be getting in your way. You might look from the visitor center, right? From a visitor center point of view. Hey, what do we have to do? How much staff do we need here? What display should we have? And so on and so forth. And fail to consider what people come to you to see. Because we didn't ask them. We don't have time to ask them. We're too busy organizing stuff. Too busy getting people in and out. Too busy dealing with staff issues, too busy dealing with the facilities, and so on and so forth. And the customers come, and they come the first time, and they go, oh, that's really neat. I wish I could have seen. And we never hear that voice. You were talking about trying to find that select group of clients, right? Making sure that a woman never looks in her mirror and feels bad about herself. You can take that on all day long and not be successful in finding the right clients. Because sometimes folks are not going to be able to afford what you can do, but maybe you can figure out what they can afford of what you do.
Can you repeat that?
All right, one more time. So they may not be able to afford what you do, but maybe you find what they can afford of what you do. Right? So if you're working in this paradigm of, hey, come work with me for an hour, and somebody goes, gosh, that's a lot to invest in an hour, is there another way to approach it? Right? Is it an hour every other day? Is it a half an hour? Would a half an hour work logistically? And look at it from the customer's point of view. Fair enough? So again, to get from where you're at today to where you want to be tomorrow, these are the most important things to do. What has to go right? What conditions have to be created? And what is getting in my way today? If you do that work, your strategies, right? Inviting people. I see so many small businesses go, I'm going to start marketing. Great. To what end? What do you want your marketing plan to do? Is it increasing the number of people that are doing business with you? Is it increasing the frequency of the people that are doing business with you? What is it what do you mean? Good. Don't do a marketing plan then. You're wasting your flipping time. Keep working. Right? So what has to go right? I need to understand that. What's getting in my way? Both individually and professionally. I was working with an organization, in fact, I'm working with an organization called the National quality for healthcare, right? And what these folks do is they assess healthcare programs all across the United States. Can you imagine how much turmoil they have experienced since the Affordable Care Act?
Oh.
I mean, it's just, their change has just been just fundamental. And so I'm working with them, and I'm like, well, what has to go right? Well, we need more stability in the healthcare field.
Attainable goals.
Yeah, good luck with that one. Good luck with that one. And so I'm asking them to think about, knowing that the environment is constantly changing, what do you need to know in a constantly changing environment? And it just shifts their focus, right? We want to go back to the old days. Everything that you did prior to me saying everything that you did doesn't matter anymore. Just experience. Everything you did yesterday doesn't really matter if you really think about it. What matters is what you're going to do right now. That's the only thing that really matters. The only thing you have any influence on. So if you drag around thinking, oh, well, and I do it. Please hear me. I screwed up. I messed up. I missed an opportunity. I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have, would have. The only thing that makes a difference is what can I, what will I do now? Okay? And we can overcome a lot of obstacles that way. All right. The other thing is, and think about it from a strategic perspective, is understanding that you probably need a roadmap. Plans are not plans unless they're written down. And they only last as long as until the ink dries. So there's a dichotomy there. It needs to be written down, but it needs to come to life. So you need to look at it all the time. There was a book written, and I'll think about the title in just a second here, where the guy related a story of having bought a house in California. And years before, this individual decided to make a big change in his life. And what he did is to say, I'm going to leverage this power of envisioning and seeing the future. And he happened to go through, and this is like 20 years before, he went through an architectural magazine and he said, you know what, when I'm successful, and he pulled this page out, this is the kind of house I'm going to live in. And he put it on what was called a dream board. Anybody ever hear of the dream board?
Yes.
So it's a visual representation of what your future would look like. Well, he had sat on that dream board so long, it was hard for him to actually see the individual items. And he was achieving a lot of stuff. Well, the story goes that the son, who now lived in this wonderful house out in California, made the observation, Dad, how did you know that we were going to live here? And it struck him that the actual picture that he had torn out of the architectural magazine 20 years before was indeed the exact house that he had purchased. That's how powerful that is. And it works the same for organizations. If you can get the DNA of the organization to believe that the house they should live in looks like this, and everybody's rowing toward that, then you have strategic planning. You have a chance that your strategic planning will be implemented. So you have to have a plan, it has to be written down. You have to know it only lasts until you write it down. And you gotta baby it and monitor it and look at it. And so, you might start toward the vision and take a little detour, right? You might even go the wrong direction for a little bit, and you just keep working your way towards that. And you do that by drawing these big, broad strategies. One of my biggest strategies for me personally is that I maintain the ability to make choice. That's my strategy. I have to maintain the ability for me to make a choice. And so my action plan says this: I need to make enough money not to be burdened or captured by that financial requirement. So when Janice and I, my wife and I, make decisions, we say, how does that help us get to freedom? It's a lot easier to say no to a refrigerator when freedom is the other side of the flipping choice. Should we buy a new refrigerator? I don't know. Should we buy it? No. Should we be free in 10 years? Oh, that refrigerator's fine. Does that make sense? My truck just went over 222,000 miles. I took a picture of it. Right? And could I buy a new truck? Hell yeah, I could probably buy a new truck right now, right? Do I want to be free in the future? Buy a new truck. So personally or professionally, this is how you do it. And you get it down to these SMART actions, right? Specific, measurable, attainable or achievable, realistic or relevant, and then time limited. And that's what we're going to talk about today, some of the strategies to help you get there. Questions real quick. I know I just got out there. So less of a conversation, I promise. But
Would you tell them the last two are smart?
yes, so specific, make it as specific as possible, really, really clear, very detailed. Measurable, how would I know when I'm being successful? Attainable, right? Relevant, right? And what I'm doing, is it relevant to my goal? And then time limited. Or realistic, some people say realistic. You have to decide on your vision. Is it going to be a mountain vision, or is it going to be a moon vision? Those are two different things. I'm kind of a mountain person, right? I kind of like practical kind of stuff. Some people are like moonshot. So thanks for that. Other questions? Does that help? Does that kind of tie in some of what you were looking for with how strategy helps? And it's really strategic thinking. It applies to both sides of the ledger. It's you, Inc. Think about you as a business, as an economic engine, as something that creates things. And quit thinking of yourself as an employee or a staff member. Right? When we come to work, we have to contribute to the whole, right? What do the folks that walk through the front door want from us, right? And so how can I do that? How can I envision that? All right. I hope you have a great day. I'll be hanging around. Oh, so we went from this to this. That's okay. So that's fine. I can flex because I have a personal trainer. Let me just say a funny story. So, and when I say eat my own cooking. So how many times have you heard yourself or others give at least 2 or 3 seriously legitimate reasons why they can't do something? How many times have you heard that? Or you've done it yourself? Really, truly legitimate reasons that you can't do it. What are some of real legitimate reasons you can't achieve something? Financial stuff, yeah. Time, yeah. What else?
Well, going back to the financial, that's what I'm running a plus. I'd love to join everything.
Yep.
But you need money to join.
That's right.
Because I hate to say it, 200, 300, 500 to join. When you're trying to make it yourself, how do you
That's
do
right.
that?
So what has to go right? So in order for me to join something, what has to go right is I have to have the disposable income to get that. So how do I break that, what has to go right, down to a strategy? And when we write it down on paper, it's just empowering. Let me just give you an example. And now we went from stretch it out a little bit to probably bring it back in, but let's just use this example, right? So let's say financial is the deal. So I need more of this. This is what has to go right, okay? And when you do what has to go right and what's getting in the way, you don't put the same item on each side of the ledger. In other words, what has to go right is I need more money. What's getting in the way is I don't have enough money. It doesn't work that way. So you got to pick a side. So let's say you need more money in order to join some membership, right? So this is going to equal being able to join stuff. Well, I would encourage you to think about what's that mean to you and to envision what that means to you. An opportunity for you to work with others, to get your creative juices flowing, and so on and so forth. So then when you're making decisions about money, you're not saying, hey, do I spend it here or do I spend it here? You're going back to this vision of what that means to you, and it makes this decision much easier. And then you can just make a smart plan that says, hey, look, I know that I've got X of this, and so if I'm going to take a percentage of that over this period of time, right, be really, really smart about that, then that's going to equal that in 6 months, I'm going to be able to join one thing. Right? We just chunk it. We just break it down and go from there. Does that make sense? So it's just that kind of thinking. And get a piece of chart paper. I mean, put a dry erase board up. Get a notepad out. Get on your laptop. Because until it's written out, right, it's just whimsical thinking. Thank you for that question. All right, we ready back there, gang? Awesome. Look at that. How do you not like working with folks? The thumbs up. All right, well, thank you very much. Like I said, I'm going to be around today, and this works. I was working with one of Karen's clients, and we were doing some coaching work, and this individual thought at one time that they needed to improve their HR practices and get better at recruiting and so on and so forth. And what they really needed to do was get away from their partner. Get away from their business partner. And this person went from spending time trying to fix their recruiting program to making a strategic decision about divesting. And now she doesn't have to worry about the recruiting program because the people that are working with her are the people that want to work with her. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right, thanks.